Christmas night, 1776. A howling nor'easter drives ice and sleet across the black water of the Delaware. Oars creak against the current as small Durham boats grind through the floes. Inside are 2,400 Continental soldiers, men who are starving, barefoot, and currently wrapped in bloody rags. George Washington knows that across the river, well-fed Hessian mercenaries are sleeping in warm barracks. He also knows the very binary stakes of this crossing. If this surprise strike at Trenton fails, the army collapses, and the American Revolution dies before the sun comes up. He stepped onto the New Jersey shore anyway. That victory at Trenton saved the cause, proving that Washington was the singular military anchor keeping the hope of a new nation alive. This is the third installment of our Great Patriots series. If you missed our previous deep dives on Thomas Paine or Alexander Hamilton, you can find them both right now on our network's website. Thank you to Shasta Unfiltered for supporting this series. They serve the North State with honest news, and you can support them by scanning the QR code today. History usually follows a predictable path. When a charismatic general leads a fractured army to victory, he almost always claims absolute dictatorial power for himself. Now the world watched to see if the man who just defeated one tyrant was simply clearing the way for another. His officers were urging him to take a crown. His army was fiercely, unbreakably loyal to him alone. The choice was entirely his. Long before he wore a uniform, Washington learned the brutal arithmetic of survival. At 16, he worked as a surveyor in the Blue Ridge Wilderness, sleeping under the stars and mapping rivers with nothing but a compass and an iron will. That mental hardness was put to work during the French and Indian War. As a 22-year-old major in the Virginia militia, he marched into the Ohio Valley and learned the reality of command through ambush, retreat, and desperate winter marches. During General Braddock's slaughter near Fort Duquesne, Washington rallied the survivors under heavy fire. He had 2 horses shot out from under him, and 4 bullets passed through his coat, emerging from the smoke as a living legend. He didn't inherit his authority from a royal bloodline. It was earned in the dirt, creating a natural aura of leadership that made men follow him through the worst conditions of the Revolution. By 1783, the war was won, but the government was failing. The Continental Congress was weak, the military was restless, and Washington held practically unlimited power. Instead of seizing control, he rode to the Maryland State House. There, he stood before Congress and did what no conqueror in history was expected to do. He handed back his sword and resigned his commission as commander-in-chief. When King George III heard that his former enemy had willingly walked away from power to return to his farm, he said, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." That single act broke with centuries of historical patterns. It proved that Washington's loyalty was to the concept of a republic, not to personal glory. The retirement was short-lived. By 1787, the fracturing nation needed him back to serve as the silent, stabilizing anchor over the sweltering Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. 2 years later, he was the only man every elector voted for. On the balcony of Federal Hall in New York, he stood before the people and swore the oath that still binds every president today. But his final test came in 1797. After 2 terms of steering a fragile ship of state through debt and foreign intrigue, he did the unthinkable a second time. He refused to run for a 3rd term. Before he left, he wrote his farewell address by candlelight, a final letter serving as a compass for the nation. He used this document to warn against the baneful effects of the spirit of party, fearing intense partisan factions would eventually tear the country apart. By refusing to hold the office until death, he established the 2-term limit and the peaceful transfer of power as the permanent standard for the American system. Washington finally got the life he wanted, returning to Mount Vernon to live as a simple gentleman farmer, riding his fields at dawn and watching the Potomac glide past. His final illness came quickly. In December 1799, he spent a full day inspecting his plantation in freezing rain and sleet. By the next night, a severe infection had seized his throat. Surrounded by his family, his last words were a request for a decent burial and a simple 3-day wait. He died as a private citizen at age 67. The man who could have been king chose instead to die under the very civilian laws he helped establish. Washington's legacy is complex, including his status as a slave owner. But as seen here in the Lansdowne portrait, he chose to be remembered in a civilian suit with an outstretched hand, the visual symbol of a republic built to serve its people. His true greatness isn't measured by how much power he accrued, but by how willingly he laid it down. If you want to see more Great Patriots episodes, please like and subscribe, and visit ShastaUnfiltered.com for more news and entertainment from the North State. Washington remains indispensable because his life proves that a republic's greatest safeguard is a leader who loves his country more than himself. He left us a government that exists to serve the people, never the other way around.